Good morning. I'm Harry Urschel, and I lead Minnesota Crossroads Career Network, and I'm really glad you're here. As Skip Nelson, one of our other presenters, often says, welcome Crossroads Nation. And these days that's really been true. Through these webinars, we've been able to reach people literally internationally. We've had people join from literally around the world and across the country. And so I'm grateful that we've got the ability to do that, and that more people can get plugged in. Really glad you're here this morning, and looking forward to some great content and help for you in the for your job search to move that forward. Want to give you a sense of what's available through Crossroads, but also to hopefully in this process give you some encouragement and hope. You know, as we're getting towards the end of the year here, it's a year that probably most of us are glad to have over here pretty soon. But as we're approaching Christmas, it's also, I know for some people that's a great time of year, and some others, because of all kinds of different circumstances, it's not such a great time of year. But really, it's a great time of hope. And, our main presenter, Heidi Zwart, today will be talking about the fresh start effect of a new year and how you can make that work for you. But I'm just grateful that we are in a world where God saw that people were drifting from Him and sent His Son to give us a fresh start, that we have an ability and a second chance to grow close to Him. And if we really focus on the reason for the season, it's really great news available for us in what He did by coming and living a perfect life, dying and coming back to life, which is an incredible thing. We're grateful for the time of year. We're grateful for the gift He's given us, and we're grateful for the opportunity that we have to seek Him and join Him, and the things that we can do as a result. I want to open us here in a word of prayer and give you an overview of what Crossroads has to offer. You know, as we get into the new year here, there's a lot that you can jump into and take advantage and take advantage of that fresh start for your job search. You know, sometimes we get in the rut and we get too focused on doing the same things, and they're not producing the results we want. And we can certainly come alongside you and give you some encouragement, but some great strategies and ideas and help in making it a more successful trip for you. So let me open us in a word of prayer and we'll get started. Lord, thank you for this chance that we do get to come together. And most importantly, Lord, thank you for coming and giving us an opportunity to have a second chance, to have a fresh start in our life that can walk alongside of you. You don't promise to take away our problems, but you do promise that you're going to walk with us through all of them. And if we seek you and we surrender ourselves to you, we can see how you carry us through those most difficult times of our lives. Father, we just are grateful for your presence, for your work in our lives, for the new year that's coming, and it offers a new sense of hope and encouragement and new possibilities. Lord, we pray that you open our eyes to those things that you put before us. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Let me share some slides here. And I want to, because we do have a number of new people join us on each of these webinars, I'm glad that new people can get plugged in. So I want to make you aware of everything that's available through Crossroads so that you can take advantage of anything and everything you want. It's all free. We operate through a group of volunteers. I'll explain more of that later, but there's all kinds of resources for you that can be very helpful. So as I mentioned, welcome. And, you know, there's pictures of meeting in person, and I'm sure craving having that again. We have certainly been having to be distanced this year. I was talking before we got online here about the fact that when all this happened in April, that we had to go online instead of meeting in person, I certainly didn't think we'd still be doing this in December. But I think we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And if vaccines get rolled out here, hopefully in the next 2, 3, 4 months here, we'll be able to get back to in-person meetings. And I'm certainly looking forward to seeing you guys face to face instead of distance-wise through through the lens. So welcome, and hopefully this is worthwhile for you this morning. I just want to give you, as I mentioned, an overview of Crossroads here. We did have someone scheduled to kind of talk about their transition through their job search and how they landed and what it meant to them, what they learned in the process. Unfortunately, I got an email from him at 3 o'clock this morning, and he woke up quite ill. I don't know what it is. Hopefully it's not COVID, but in any case, he's not able to join us this morning. But typically we do have somebody talk about their own career transition, and encourage you to join us for future webinars when you'll get to hear some of those encouraging stories. Really going to be glad to introduce Heidi Zwart. She's going to talk about, her topic is leverage the fresh start effect for a healthy new year. And especially as you get going in your job search and get an ability to start fresh this new year, it's going to be a great way to think about what you might be able to do differently or how you can approach it in a fresh way. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll wrap up, and we'll certainly be done before 9 o'clock since we don't have the other person speaking this morning. So we'll keep it shorter this morning. When we do meet in person, we actually have 3 locations that you can take advantage of our resources. So we meet out of Grace Church in Eden Prairie, out of Woodbury Lutheran Church, and out of North Heights Lutheran Church in Arden Hills. And so depending on what part of the Twin Cities you live, you can find the location that works best for you and be able to meet for our seminars, our classes, and all the other things I'll be talking about shortly. All the information is always on our website at mncrossroads.com, and you'll be able to find schedules and locations and everything that we have to offer. And so I do really want to encourage you to spend some time exploring that website, because there's an awful lot there. We have a lot available to you. And there's all of our events are posted there. We have resources for your job search on there. We have a job board, which really encourage you to check out. There's a number of employers that know what we do and want to help, but want to find great people. And we always have great people that participate in Crossroads. And so check out the jobs there. In order to be posted, for them to post on our job board, we require that they include a name of an actual contact person at the organization, along with some contact information, typically an email address. So you have somebody, a real live person you can reach out to, rather than just blindly applying online and wondering what happened. And so you can check that out, see if there are any positions there that might make sense for you, and pursue those. We don't get the volume that LinkedIn or Indeed or some other job boards get, obviously, but we do get a good variety of positions posted there, and several of them a week. And so check it out on a regular basis. We've gotten great feedback from employers that they've found great people through Crossroads. And so I'm encouraged by that. And if you know employers that can participate and offer up jobs, there's an employers tab on our website where they can find information of how to do that as well. So as you land in a new job as well, I encourage you to tell your employer about us and get participated. You know, Crossroads is primarily geared to helping you learn how to do an effective job search. But when we can actually help you connect to real jobs, that's next level, right? And so I hope that continues to grow for us. On a weekly basis, there's a number of ways you can plug into Crossroads. One is that I really encourage you to take advantage of our Networking with Grace group. And normally that would be in person, but that's all online through Zoom meetings right now too. But every Thursday morning, they meet for concentrated networking for business professionals. And so it's an opportunity to get fresh ideas, fresh contacts, perhaps leads, and connect with a number of other people. Because we have to do it through Zoom, it's very structured right now, and there are some limits. So you do need to register in advance online. If you go to our website and look for networking, you'll find all the details there. But if you haven't participated in this before, I really encourage you to check it out, because we have, we jokingly call them West 1 and West 2, but West Tang and West Roper lead those groups for us, and they do an incredible job to make sure that everybody walks out with something each week. And it can be maybe a little intimidating the first time around, but they get you pulled in very quickly, and I encourage you to check it out. It's a great way to get new contacts and ideas on a weekly basis. So check out Networking with Grace. One of the other things we have available for you is one-on-one coaching. If you want to take some time to meet with one of our volunteers, whether by a phone call or a Zoom meeting, we're only able to do it online for now. But whether it's to have somebody look at your resume, or if you have an interview coming up and you want to prepare either with practicing with a mock interview, or figuring out how to research or prepare for the interview in other ways better. If you need help with networking, or you just need to talk through your situation with somebody to have a sounding board to get a better understanding of how you can take some next steps, we have that available for you. You just go on the website, look at our coaching page. You can fill out a short form there requesting follow-up, and within a day or two, somebody will send you an email to set up a time for the two of you to meet. So take advantage of that as often as you like, but it's a great way to get some individual support and help in that process. Additionally, on an individual basis, I encourage you to take advantage of our prayer support page we've got on our website. We have a team of people that love praying for you, that care about what you're going through, and you can put in a prayer request. Somebody will follow up, and to have somebody praying for you is a tremendous way to help keep that emotional roller coaster in check. It's pretty hard to get through a job search without getting on that roller coaster once in a while. And so this can certainly help and give you some spiritual support. Take advantage of each of those things. The meat and potatoes, though, what we offer through Crossroads is our small group classes. And this is really where you can get the most in-depth and ongoing help. We have an 8-week class that covers every aspect of a great job search strategy. And we start with attitude and kind of getting in, making sure we're in the right frame of mind and leaving all that emotional baggage behind. If you've been in the work world for more than a couple of years, you probably have a suitcase full of stuff that you're carrying with you all the time. And how do we leave that behind and not let those things discourage an employer from hiring us? So we talk about how to get into that right frame of mind. We do some assessments so that you can better articulate what makes you unique and what do you bring to the table that other candidates might not, and how do you articulate that better? We certainly talk about networking throughout the hiring process or job search process. It's a critical piece. In case you haven't heard, most jobs are filled through some sort of networking versus just the online application system. And so we really dive into that over the course of the entire class. How to target companies. We talk about resume best practices, how to tweak yours to be more effective, and what are best practices for doing that. We talk about interviewing skills and how to address different types of interviews that come up and interview questions that are tough, how you want to portray yourself for different parts of that. We talk about negotiating and making sure you're selecting the right job, and much, much more. And as much as the content is really solid, we go through a workbook, and each of our facilitators has some great real world experience and expertise that they can share with you. But in addition to that, I think just the weekly accountability of showing up, getting some encouragement and moral support and ideas for the next week really helps with that emotional roller coaster as well. Gives you a new spring in your step for the next week. And I think that is as important as all the content we cover. And throughout the whole process, we explore what's God's perspective of your job search in your life. I think so often we think about our journey with God, whether we are a believer or not, but all he cares about is Sunday mornings, right? And the reality is God really cares about your whole life, every aspect, and our jobs are a huge part of that. And how we are pursuing our job search and the things that we make important to ourselves is something he cares about. And so we talk about that throughout the process as well. We have new classes starting monthly. At this point, we have 2 classes scheduled to start in January. And so you can check the website for details on that and to pre-register there. But if you are in the search, whether you're just starting out on a search or you've been in it for a while, really encourage you to take advantage of this. This is just the place you can certainly gain confidence that you're doing the right things for your job search. And I think as important is that moral support and help you get from the rest of the group as well. So check it out, sign up, and take advantage of that for the new year. Also, we have a LinkedIn group that really encourage you to check that out and sign up there as well. If you just put MN Crossroads Career Network in the search bar on LinkedIn, you'll find us. And actually, I think we're approaching 2,000 people in there right now. And those are all people that have participated in Crossroads in one way or another in the past. And for the people that are currently looking for positions, it's a great way to find additional contacts, perhaps at companies you're interested in. And people ask me all the time, you know, Crossroads has helped me. How can I give back? This is the best way, is stay in that LinkedIn group after you've landed in your new job and be a willing contact for others that are looking for a job after you. So as somebody might be interested in the company that you're working at, you can offer them some advice and help and insight and help them in any way that you see fit. But it's a great way for you to find contacts at companies you're interested in as well. So check out our LinkedIn group. There's also a lot of information that gets posted on there, certainly about upcoming events, but we have recruiters in there that post jobs. We have people that post some great job search materials and encouragement and all kinds of other things. So check it out, sign up, and take advantage of the resources that are available for you there. LinkedIn group is a terrific resource. And our Networking with Grace group, the networking group that meets weekly, has another group as well. Attend one of their sessions and you can sign up for their LinkedIn group also. So look forward to seeing you there as well. I just want to acknowledge we have a ton of volunteers and it's growing. We're over 40 people that volunteer for Crossroads in one way or another. Everybody brings a sense of expertise or a heart to help people. And I'm just grateful because there's no way we can do all the things we do because of one or two people. It takes a lot of people to get it all done. And I'm just incredibly grateful that we have a lot of people that give of their time and effort to put this all together. And we have a lot of great people that bring expertise that can offer different help and advice and things that make this all work really well. So as you see people around or connect with them through groups or coaching or anything else, I just ask you to thank them because it's all on a volunteer basis, and I'm privileged to be able to work alongside each of them. And if you don't have a church home, I encourage you to check out one of the churches that aligns with Crossroads here locally: Woodbury Lutheran, North Heights Church, and Grace Church. We each are meeting on Sunday mornings, but we also stream the services online, and you can take advantage of it either way. We each have Christmas services coming up, and encourage you to check those out. But take advantage of this time that you might have more flexibility in your schedule since you're not in a job, and get the spiritual input and support from the churches involved. And so with that, let me end or take the slides off my screen here. I think I did. And I'm really glad to introduce Heidi. Heidi actually is Heidi Zwart is coming to us from Boston this morning, and they just got hit by a big snowstorm. So she was, as we were talking, she's grateful that her internet didn't go out. But one advantage of doing the webinars is we can have speakers from anywhere. And I'm really encouraged, actually, over the next month here, as we get into the new year, we have speakers coming from all over. We'll have speakers from Arizona, from California, from Colorado, and other places. And so take advantage of our other upcoming webinars as well in January. I'll talk more about that later. But Heidi has a terrific background in training and understanding strengths, but also in helping people understand the challenges that they may face in transitions and other parts of their lives. That brings a lot of expertise to you here. So Heidi, I'll turn it over to you. I'm really glad to have you here, and I'll join us again at the end.
Excellent. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen here, if I can do that, just to get started. All right, and I think that's going to pop out. There we go. Thank you, Harry, for the introduction. Thanks for inviting me to be a part of this conversation today. Like Harry said, we got hit with a big storm, which is called a nor'easter here on the East Coast. So we are hoping that we maintain power throughout the presentation this morning. But this may be one of the few times that I'm actually jealous of the weather in Minnesota. Now, I'm a Minnesota native, so I can say that. But I do look forward to talking about this topic today because it blends two things that I absolutely love talking about. One is habits and one is well-being. And if there was ever a year where we needed a fresh start, I think it's this coming year. Man, it's been a tough year. It's been amazing how quickly it's gone. From my perspective, I feel like I blinked and it's been gone. And for others of you, it may feel like it's lasted forever. But the conversation today is going to be about this behavioral science principle called the fresh start effect and how we can actually use that to build new habits around our job search and around our overall well-being in the new year that's coming. So a little bit, whoops, I got to go back one screen. Sorry about that. A little bit about me, both personally and professionally. So you can see on the left side of the screen here, this is my family. It's pretty obvious that I am the only female in my family, aside from our girl cat. But I have three mostly grown boys and a husband. So I hold my own in a family of boys. This is a picture just from a couple of weeks ago, actually, of us celebrating my middle son's graduation from Belmont University in Nashville on a beautiful day. It was a 70-degree day, along with my husband. My oldest son, who's on the left, is in grad school in North Carolina, but doing it remotely from Minnesota. So I guess the advantage of online schooling. And the one on the far right is my youngest son. He's a senior in high school and doing the crazy hybrid schedule that most of us are relegated to this year. So that's my family. A little bit about me professionally. I've been a coach, a counselor, a consultant in the people helping realm for over 25 years. I have a background in counseling. I have a master's in counseling from Bethel University. I have certifications in nutrition and personal training and sleep, because as I worked with people, I discovered that their health was oftentimes their number one complaint. It was the number one thing that they wanted to work on. And so I certified in several different areas in order to help and step alongside of people. I also did life coach training because coaching has a little bit of a different nuance than counseling. And I wanted to understand that difference and just be equipped to help people from a place of strengths and what's right, which led me to the Gallup Certified Strengths Coach certification, which I did about a year ago. And I've loved doing that as well. And so when I put all of that together and had to come up with this description of who I am and what I do, it's the strengths-based well-being coach and strategist, because I love solving problems. I love helping other people solve problems. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I love looking at creative ways of putting pieces together so that people can move forward in a healthy way. About 3 years ago, I also wrote a book called It Began in the Garden. And this was taking the Genesis story of Adam and Eve in the garden and looking at how what happened there influences and impacts us today in our spiritual, our physical, and our emotional health. So I enjoyed putting those three pieces together to look at it from a faith-based perspective. And I recently launched a podcast with a co-host, and it's Side by Side, and we help women in ministry be equipped with tools that they need for today. So that's just a little bit about me so that you know who you're listening to here. Sorry, my buttons are on top of there we go. Just have to move my little picture here. Okay. Whoop, I keep wanting to slide too far. There we go. So here's what we're going to cover today, because I always like to know where we're going. I like the roadmap. So we're going to look at why the fresh start effect can help in a job search, and also what is the fresh start effect. To understand what that really is matters, and we are on the cusp of a fresh start. So this is a great time to have that conversation. And yet also looking at why New Year's resolutions fail. So we set these goals, we use this fresh start, and yet somehow we fail to be consistent with the things that we commit to year after year. So let's look at how we can actually succeed. I want to speak a little bit about well-being and specifically why it helps your career crossroads, why all of those things, when I talk about well-being, it's holistic. So body, mind, and spirit, and how to actually do it. So we're going to look at some very practical things that you can do to improve your well-being in all of those areas. And in the end, we're going to put it all together, because if you're like me, you attend a lot of these, you get a lot of information, and then you're not sure what to do with it, or you're trying to remember all the different pieces. So I'm going to help you just kind of put it all together with some simple action steps. Here's my tip for you today. As you're listening, feel free to take notes if that works for you, but also take some screenshots. I found this super useful as I listen to webinars. I am happy to share this information with you. If you're on a Mac, you're going to hit Shift Command 3 all at once to take a screenshot. And if you're on a PC, although I don't work from one, this is what I understand, is that you should have a button that says print screen on your keyboard. So feel free to take those screenshots so that you can refer back to them later. So let's start with the fresh start effect. So what is the fresh start effect? So this comes from behavior science. And for the last about 5 to 10 years, I've really landed in, done a deep dive into habits in particular, but behavior science as a whole. And the fresh start effect is this phenomenon that scientists have discovered that temporal landmarks motivate aspirational behavior. So a temporal landmark are things, they're points in time or special occasions that represent new beginnings, fresh starts. So clearly we're on the precipice of one right now. We're about to start a new year. But if you think about other times in your life where this could play out, this could be a Monday. This is often a Monday. It could be the start of a new month or the start of a new semester. It can be a birthday or an anniversary or any other special occasion, a birth of a child, that really encourages you to do something different. And the behavior science is really interesting because what it tells us is that at the beginning of a new week, the start of a new month, following a birthday or after a holiday from work, people redouble their efforts to achieve their goals. So they have goals, they're striving for them, but they actually put the double effort into that goal on the precipice of a fresh start. Catherine Milkman is a behavior scientist at the Wharton School, which is at Penn State University. And this is where she's really spent the majority of her time, is studying this fresh start effect. So why does this work? Because it seems like you might be able to relate to this if you think about Mondays and you think about how often we recommit to doing something differently on Monday. The reason that works is because somehow when we're standing on that threshold, we're able to distance ourselves from our past and we're able to see ourselves with greater optimism in the future. So there's this disconnect between what we've done and who we can be. And that optimism actually pushes us forward. We're able to say about past behavior, well, that was our old self. And there's this fracture, which actually works to our advantage. So if we look at that specifically with one area in particular, which is exercise, here's what the research actually shows. People are more likely to exercise after each of these fresh start moments. So after a birthday, they're 7% more likely. A new week, right? Look at that Monday. You've got 33% more likely chance that you're going to exercise on Monday versus a Friday. A new month, a new year, or a new semester. And when I saw this, I thought, man, I wish I was a student. I wish I had a new semester to look forward to, because they are the most successful at getting that exercise back in place again. So you can see how this works. And that's one example in the world of exercise, but you're certainly wondering, well, how does this help in career transition? Like, why does this matter to me? I don't care about exercise. I'm not interested in nutrition at this moment. I really want to talk about career. So here is my encouragement to you, and that's to do hard things on Monday when your motivation is higher. So you naturally have this fresh start effect that happens on Monday. So when we put that together with additional research in the career field, there's an author and behavior scientist out of Stanford named BJ Fogg, who came out with a book about a year ago, but he's been studying this for years, 20 plus years. And so he's come up with this formula that's called the behavior change formula that says behavior equals motivation plus ability plus a prompt. So in short, it's B equals MAP. Now that's as good as it gets for me when it comes to math, because I'm not a math person, but this makes sense to me. What he's saying is that to make behavior change, you need motivation, you need the ability to do it, and you need a prompt. So motivation, as you've probably personally experienced, ebbs and flows. There are times where we feel highly motivated. There are times where we feel very we feel low motivation. Ability varies as well. In order to actually make a change, we have to know how to do it. And if we don't know how to do it, we just can't, we can't change. Whoops, sorry about that. So we have to know how to do that skill. And we need a prompt, we need a cue or a trigger. These are some of the words that you might have heard in the past when it comes to thinking about how to change your behavior. I'm making sure that you guys can see me because I'm seeing something kind of funny on my screen, but I'm just going to keep going. So you have to have these three things in place. I apologize, I'm going to go back here. So this motivation is a wave. It's this, this constant ebb and flow where you're going to feel it high sometimes, you're going to feel it low sometimes. So if we marry motivation, which is higher naturally through the fresh start effect, we are more likely to actually act on that behavior. So when you think about that in career transition, here are some specific examples and ways that that might happen and what that might look like. So on a Monday, when your motivation is high, maybe you make a call that scares you. It's that call, it's that connection, it's the LinkedIn tap that is going to, you're gonna capitalize on that motivation because it's going to set you up for future success. So when you ride the motivation wave, the goal is to take a point in time when your motivation is really high and do the hard thing. The hard thing is that when you have the ability to do it, that sets up future success. So it's making a one-time choice that leads to future change. So make that call that scares you and take that leap of faith so that that connection might lead to the next thing down the road. Apply for a stretch job. Maybe it's the one that you think, I don't know if I'm really qualified for that, but you feel kind of more bold and more brave on that Monday when you can really set yourself up for taking future steps that require that brave, bold step. Maybe it's revamping your resume. This, again, if you think about it, it's a one-time action. And if you spend time creating that resume on that Monday, you have a great resume that you're going to be able to send out time and again. Look at it with your fresh eyes when you're really thinking about the very best version of you and what you want to present to future employers. This might mean hiring a coach. You are building in an accountability partner. You are making a commitment to somebody else, and you're making a commitment to yourself to work on yourself going forward. And finally, one more tip for your job search, and this is to maybe enroll in a course. So again, if you think about that formula, that BMAP formula, this means you're actually improving your ability. So you're matching your motivation, which is high, you're matching your ability, which is high, so that you can move forward in a way that is more successful in the future and commit to learning ongoing. So why doesn't this last, right? We talked about New Year's resolutions, and we talked about the fact that this one-time commitment that we seem to make, and we seem to be motivated at these moments in time. Why doesn't it last? Well, this is a really interesting point when I think the Bible and what Christianity says about, and what the Bible tells us about who we are as people, and how it actually marries itself and matches behavior science. Oftentimes we think about it has to be one or the other, that we look at either the Bible is right or science is right. And this is one of those times where it really talks about the ability of marrying both of them. I'm going to pause for 1 second because I still think that for some reason you are not seeing my screen. So let me just look at the chat here for a second, if that's okay. Nope, I think we're good. Okay. I apologize. If you can't see me, please let me know. So I'm going to keep this up just for a second so I see it. But let's look at what the Bible says about why we struggle with this fresh start effect. It's human nature. It's part of why I wrote my book, to talk about the fact that there are things that happened in the book of Genesis with the first man and the first woman that created this ripple effect that impacts us today. We have things that we're going to continually fight. It doesn't mean we have to stay stuck there. It just means that is who we are. It's how God created us. It's how we, the things that we naturally have to be aware of. And Paul illustrates this in the book of Romans in 7:15 when he says, I don't really understand myself, for I want to do what's right, but I don't do it. Instead, I do what I hate. And doesn't that just describe our own fight? You know, we make these commitments to try new things, to build new habits, and yet we seem to constantly fall into the old trap, our old self. And we're going to talk about why that's true on the next slide, which is our behavior science piece. But laying the foundation, right? There's this basic understanding of who we are as people, and behavior science simply confirms that, right? So here's what behavior science says. We have an intention action gap. So I don't know about you, but I've experienced this over and over again in my life. The intention action gap is this idea that we have the best of intentions. We want to do something, we want to make a change, and yet we don't do it. And this is called, in behavior science, the research, the intention action gap. The reason that this happens is because of the way our minds are wired. Our minds are limited. We are finite. We are not God. We do not have this omniscience. We don't have this, this almighty power to do anything that we set our minds to. Our minds are limited. And as a result, our brains develop these shortcuts. They're just responding to the world around it. It's responding to those cues, those prompts, or those triggers. And the bad news is that habits are agnostic. So in other words, habits don't care about the outcome. They're just responding. They see something, they do something. They see something, they do something. They don't care about the outcome, but we do. And unfortunately, we're less in control of our decisions than we think. In fact, research says that 55% of what we do every day is habit. It's automated. So 55% of the time we're on autopilot. When we're aware of that, then we're able to develop some ways around that, which is what we're going to talk about next. But your brain is trying to survive, it's trying to thrive, and it's trying to conserve calories. That is essentially what your brain is trying to do. So it's always looking for the easiest route, which is why it's so hard to develop new habits sometimes, because you're automated on the naturally easy response. But here's the good news. We can change our behaviors. Once we know all of that, there are 4 specific things that we can do to effectively change our behaviors. We can make it easy, we can make it attention grabbing, we can make it social, and we can make it timely. So if you look at the third word in each of those sentences there, it's think east. It spells EAST. So that's your little acronym for keeping track of how to think about hacking the world around you to help you create those new goals. So let's look at each one of them. So the first one is to make it easy. And I love this, and I talk about this all the time. Reduce friction, energy, or thought. So make it easy, make it the default choice. A perfect example of this is in the financial industry. What people know is the best way to pay your bills is to automate payments. If you want to tithe, choose the automated payment. When there have been studies done in Europe where organ donation is the opt-in. So in other words, people have to opt out in order to not be an organ donor. And the rate at which people give and donate their organs is exponentially higher than it is in the US here, where we have to opt in. So if you make it the default choice, you're far more likely to act on that behavior and act on that goal or that choice that you're trying to make. The second thing is to remove what's called the hassle factor. So the way I like to think about this is, let's say you're a runner or you like to walk outside and you've got this beautiful, beautiful summer day in Minnesota, and you've loved doing it and you've loved being out in the fall, and suddenly you have the winter storm. suddenly you have to find your hat, you have to find your coat, you have to decide, do I put on boots, do I put on shoes? And it's suddenly a hassle. So when you do that, there's friction. You are going to resist making that behavior happen. So removing that hassle factor might be switching to an indoor workout in the winter. It might be going to watch a workout DVD or walk on a treadmill inside. But the more you can remove that hassle factor, the more likely you are to follow through on that chosen behavior. The third idea is to start small and celebrate the wins. So I'm a huge advocate of starting very, very small, ridiculously small, like something that you would just say, that's just super easy. I don't even understand that. So let's say you are not a runner, you don't have a regular exercise habit, but it's something you want to start for the new year. This would be putting on your shoes. So this is an example of starting ridiculously easy. You don't have to do anything after you put on your shoes, just put on your shoes. But what you're doing is you're creating a pathway to getting to that ultimate goal. And it might seem really silly, but it works, and it works time and time again. And to lock in that choice and that the success of doing that, you need to celebrate your wins. BJ Fogg in that Tiny Habits book talks about doing something like just saying, I'm awesome. So you put on your shoes and then it's, I'm awesome. And it seems silly, but the way it works in the brain is that it takes something from being it puts something into your body that's called intrinsic motivation. In other words, we are looking for an internal reward, something that tells us I'm good, or I'm successful, or that made me feel good. And we know from behavior science that intrinsic motivation or internal rewards are the things that make us keep with a habit. They make us do it over and over again. So the more we can lock in that internal sense of success, the more likely we are to repeat that behavior, because we're going to crave that moment of celebration. The fourth thing is to plan out what's called an implementation contingency. So in other words, this is what will I do when? So this isn't about being a pessimist. It's not about expecting being an Eeyore or thinking something's always going to be wrong, but it's always thinking, what if? What if this happens? What will I do when? Because from the research, we know that when you have this contingency plan, when you know and you've decided, predetermined in advance what you're going to do when something happens, the more likely you are to actually take action in a way that's consistent with your goals in the future. So think about what if, so that you know in a worst case scenario, or if something goes sideways, you know what you're going to do, because you don't have to think in that moment when you're stressed or when you're anxious, which gives you more clarity of thought and will help you you don't have to make a difficult decision in that moment. And the final thing, the fifth thing actually, in this particular category is to align your choices with your identity. In other words, this is about saying, I'm the kind of person who. So when you look at examples of success stories about how somebody has used this, what it means is, I'm going to go back to the runner example because I've used that several times with this category. Let's say you want to become a runner. What you do is you start thinking about what would that runner do? And when you align yourself and when you think about, well, a runner would do X, Y, and Z, you start saying, I'm the kind of person who does X, Y, and Z. When you don't then actually do that chosen behavior, you create this cognitive dissonance in your head, because your brain is always trying to make sense of your world. It's trying to align your values with your action. And when it doesn't, it has this disconnect and it feels really uncomfortable. So the more you can tell yourself, I'm the kind of person who might be submits, one job application every day. When you don't do that, it becomes really uncomfortable for you, and you're more likely to do it the next time you get the opportunity, because you're looking to make that your identity and your actions align. So that's the E in East. The second one is to make it attention grabbing. So this is to make your preferred choice appealing and visible. So this is setting up clear and powerful cues around you. So set up things in your environment that remind you to do that chosen behavior. So this might mean if you wanted to exercise, for example, keeping your shoes by your bed or keeping your shoes by the place that you normally sit all day so that you see it and you're reminded of it so that it looks appealing and it's right there. You can't miss it. Use reminders. We have so many different opportunities to use reminders in our world today. We have phones, we have Apple Watches, we have Post-it notes. We have all different kinds of things that we can set up to alarm us and to tell us when we need to take action. The caution here is that we can become kind of immune to reminders. In fact, like my watch, for example, will tell me to breathe and it tells me to stand like 10 minutes to the hour. If you have an Apple Watch, you know what I'm talking about. And honestly, I ignore it almost always because it happens so often. So these may work for a while, but you might have to shift to a different strategy if you find yourself becoming neutral or just ignoring those cues. Go where your attention already is at a specific time of day. So if you have a daily routine, set up your chosen behavior at a time when you know you're going to be in a particular location. If you know you sit down at your same desk at the same time of day every day, open LinkedIn, for example, and look at 5 new jobs or whatever that might be. Or if you want to eat well and you know that you take a break at noon, put a Post-it note on that fridge that says eat a salad. Like those things, you're already going where your attention is, and you're simply going to align your choices then with that, with where your attention is and what you're trying to accomplish. And the final thing in here, and this is one of my favorites, is to build on existing habits and routine, because I've seen this work so successfully over and over again. So this is called habit stacking. So you're taking something that you already do in your day and you're putting something else, you're kind of sandwiching or stacking it on top of what you're already doing. So if you want to start taking daily multivitamins and you always have a cup of coffee in the morning and hopefully you always brush your teeth, you might put that vitamin bottle right by your coffee pot or right by your toothbrush so that when you do that thing, you do the next thing. So it's a kind of a when I do this, I will do this formula. And it's amazing how easy it becomes to make that new habit stick. I've done this with people in the past and they've come up with things I never would have come up with because I don't know their routine. So you know your routine and you need to just think about where you can pair your chosen behavior with something that you're already doing. So that's E, A. Oh, and one more for attention grabbing is remove distractions. And this is super important if you're trying to break a habit. So if you think about back to that behavior change model, you're looking at motivation, ability, and prompt. If you're craving something, it's really hard to reduce motivation, right? Because that's a really strong motivation to eat that particular food or drink that particular beverage. So what you can do is you can make it harder to do. You can reduce your ability. You can also reduce the prompt. By not seeing it, you are less likely to do that thing. So we all tend to spend too much time on social media. So maybe you take your phone or you turn your alerts off, you put it in the other room if you're tempted to scroll while you're watching a webinar, because I know nobody's doing that this morning, but we all do it. So I get it. But remove the thing that causes you to revert to those old habits, put them out of sight, make it harder to do. The S, so EA, now we're at S, make it social, embrace community. And this is a hard one this year, I know, but we're going to set a new reference group. So you want to be in an environment where people are pursuing the same thing. So Crossroads is a perfect example of that. If you are in a job search, you want to set job searchers as your reference group. You want to look around and see what they're doing and follow those behaviors, because you're more likely to kind of conform to that particular group in a positive way. Now, of course, it can be used the other way as well, but align yourself with that new reference group so that you can learn from those people and feel consistent with the behaviors that you're taking. Join others or create a community. Again, another Crossroads is a perfect example of that, where you are in community with one another. You have, you've signed up for that 8-week course or that 8-week class and workshop. That is your community, and that is more likely to help you stay motivated toward in your job search and toward taking the steps that are necessary to find that next step in your career. The third thing you can do in the social aspect is to raise the stakes or create social commitments. So this could be a friendly wager with a friend where you have some financial skin in the game, or it could be creating social commitments. So saying, hey, I'm going to meet you on Zoom every Friday at noon, and we're going to see what we did that week. And maybe it's a competition and maybe it's not. You know what's going to work best for you and what's going to be most motivational. But creating that accountability system is a huge part of your success in making the changes that you want to make. The final piece of that acronym is the timely. And I think that sometimes this is the hardest one. It's creating urgency to take action now. And the reason that this is so hard is because we don't like to wait. We are impatient. I am impatient, and I don't like to delay gratification. I want to see results now, which is why diet mentality is so big, because we want to see it now. We don't want to see it later. And so we can overcome this by creating deadlines or a schedule. So again, in your job search, maybe this is setting a deadline by a Friday or a Wednesday or whatever day of week it matters to submit a certain number of applications for a job, or making new connections on LinkedIn. It's very important when you're in the job search to have some sort of routine, some sort of schedule that will prompt you to continue in your job search without time getting away from you. You can also imagine your future self and align your choices today to meet that future self. So remember, we don't like cognitive dissonance. We don't like to see this disconnect between our actions and who we think we are. So this is one of the things I like to do with the people that I work with, is to imagine themselves 12 months down the line. So 1 year from today. If you did the thing that you want to do, you want to eat better, or you want to exercise, or you want a job, in your case, and you want that job that's satisfying, what do you need to do today to make that happen? What's the best case scenario? You have your dream job. What does it look like in a year? And what happens if nothing changes? What if you're exactly like you are today? And how does that make you feel? That small shift and that small exercise can actually be really impactful in helping you make the change. So quick review. Here's our EAST acronym. It's make it easy, make it attention grabbing, make it social, and make it timely. So, you might be thinking, all right, so I'm in career transition. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing in the waiting. Like, I feel like I'm doing everything that I should be doing. Maybe I could get a little bit better in a few areas, but what does this have to do with, what else can I do to improve my career well-being? Well, here's the thing. You can't separate your career well-being from your physical, emotional, or spiritual well-being. So yes, give attention to your career well-being. Do take the classes, do all of the things that we just talked about, but make sure that you're building habits elsewhere too. And here's why. You are a holistic being. You are body, mind, and spirit, and those are really intricately woven. And Gallup, who, of course, you're all familiar with because of the research they do, they have a book called Well-Being, and they identify 5 areas of our well-being: social, physical, community, financial, and career. And in their research, this is the crazy thing, career well-being is the #1 area of well-being that impacts everything else. In other words, it has this tremendous ripple effect on all of those other areas of our well-being. So if our career well-being isn't good, the other areas of our life suffer. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because our career is so wrapped up in our identity. It's who we are. We meet new people and they say, well, what do you do? And it can get really uncomfortable in those moments when we don't know how to answer the question. And as a result, it impacts our social life, our physical well-being, our community, the people we associate with, and of course, our financial well-being as well. So it has this tremendous ripple effect. So if you don't have the opportunity to regularly do something you enjoy, the odds of you having high well-being in the other areas diminish rapidly. So we know this from the research. This is just what the research shows. This is not somebody's opinion. And here's the sad thing, that globally, only 20% of people strongly agree that they have an opportunity to do that on a day-to-day basis. So that's a shockingly small number of people who aren't satisfied in their current careers. And you may have been in that place where you know what that feels like. But when you can shift that, people with high career well-being are more than twice as likely to be thriving in their lives overall. So that's how significant your career well-being is. And, you know, that might feel a little bit depressing right now because you're in this crossroads, but I think it's the best news ever, because during a time of career crossroads, you have time to reevaluate. You know, maybe you were in a really bad job, one that you maybe didn't even realize how rough it was until you were forced out of it. Maybe you chose it because you knew you just couldn't keep doing that particular job anymore. But you have this point in time to really evaluate your strengths. You have an opportunity to think about your values, and you have a time to kind of reprioritize and restructure your life in a way that that works and feels better to you. Now, you don't have to be earning a paycheck to have a thriving career well-being, but you do have to find meaning. You have to have an opportunity to do something that you like every day, whether you are working in office or you're volunteering or you're raising kids or you're starting your own business. You have to be engaged in that occupation that you choose, whatever you choose, and think about that, about how big of an impact that career well-being has on your next step, because you're at a point right now where you maybe get to choose. So while you're in this waiting for that next step in your career, give attention to your other areas of well-being. The three that I focus on most are physical well-being, which means having good health and energy to get things done every day. The second thing is your emotional well-being. And this is just your ability to manage stress, to be resilient, and to moderate your emotions. This is taking the biggest hit across the world during this season of COVID, is our emotional well-being. So this might be the area that needs the most attention to you right now. It's an area that is certainly impacted when we have poor career well-being. And spiritual well-being. This is your sense of life, meaning, and purpose. And again, being at this career crossroads can be this point of time where you're wondering if life has meaning. You're wondering what your purpose is. You're wondering what the purpose of life is. It can be very difficult to have high spiritual well-being in a time of career well-being, which is why I've partnered with Crossroads, because I've been so inspired by the fact that they attend to this spiritual well-being while you're at a career crossroads. So let's look a little bit at some really super specific things that you can give attention to in these particular areas. So with your physical well-being, you know, it matters because it's what gives you energy and clarity. You need energy and clarity in your job search. You need it in your daily life. And one of the worst things you can do right now is to go on a diet, because diet calories are simply a unit. It's a measure of energy. So when you restrict your level of energy, you can feel it. You feel sluggish, you feel depleted, you feel angry, you feel undernourished. And so the worst thing you can do is to diet. So ditch the diet. You need energy. You need healthy fats for clarity in your brain. You need to start your day with breakfast so that you have energy for your job search and for the decisions that you're going to make going forward. So this is not the time to go on a diet. Yes, you need to be mindful of your calories, and maybe you are consuming too many based on the output, based on your exercise level. But don't diet, especially not anything that's extreme. A better measure is to fill half of your plate with vegetables, and then that other kind of 2/4 fill with one of those with protein, and one of them with a carb and a healthy fat. So it could be like guacamole, for example, or a handful of seeds on like a chicken breast. But those vegetables are carbs, and a lot of people don't know that, but you can get the bulk of the carbs that you need from those vegetables. Protein is the building block of your muscles. It is going to give you long-lasting energy, so you need protein with every single meal, and ideally with your snacks as well. And eating in those every 2.5 to 3 hours is kind of the general rule of thumb in order to keep your energy going throughout the day. That healthy fat, particularly in the morning, is going to fuel you. It's going to help you wake up better. In fact, better than caffeine, which I know I've got my coffee here, so I understand. Prioritize movement. So I'm sure you've heard, that sitting is the new smoking, and that may or may not be true, but the point is that we sit far too much. And when you are in job transition, when you're looking for a job, you're sitting a lot. You're looking at your phone, you're looking at your computer, you're on Zoom. Those are all parts of your everyday life, and that's okay. But also prioritize movement. Listen to your watch when it tells you to stand. Schedule a time to go with on a walk with a friend. In fact, the crisp air in the winter on a day that's otherwise chilly can be a great energy boost in the middle of your day as well. Plus, it gives you a new perspective. And the final thing in that 4 area is to sleep. So there are sort of 4 pillars of physical health that I spend a lot of time talking about. One is exercise, one is nutrition, stress, and sleep. Sleep really is the underpinning of all those other areas. The recommendation for sleep is 7 to 9 hours a night for an adult. When you are sleep deprived, you don't eat well because you're craving instant energy, which will lead you to the sugary carbs. You don't exercise because you have no energy, and you're probably stressed. And stress also creates cravings for that high sugar, carby type foods. Nothing wrong with carbs. Just be mindful of when you're craving them and what's happening in your body because of them. So if you can do anything during this time of transition, take the time to aim for that 7 hours of sleep every night. Your emotional well-being, and I mentioned that this one has taken such a hit this year, but when you work on your emotional well-being, you are able to reduce stress and you're able to build resilience. In other words, you have the ability to face future obstacles with better tools, with feeling better equipped and more capable of navigating through them. One of the best things you can do here is to limit your screen time. And again, I know that we are immersed in screens in a job search process, but we're also immersed in social media, which is filled with negativity. We have the news feeds, which are filled with negativity. And it's not that you have to avoid them altogether, but notice what happens in yourself when you are spending a lot of time in those places that are not filling you up in a positive way. So just be mindful of the amount of time that you're spending on screens and try to do your best to limit it. Our phones all have ability to turn off at certain times, so be mindful of that. Secondly, be still. Now we've referred to this season as a season of pause, and I think that one of the biggest challenges we face, as all of us face, is lack of margin. We're far too busy. And this season has given us this opportunity to step back, to reprioritize some things in our life, to look at our jobs a little bit differently, to look at our work-life balance, and to make adjustments. And so when we move on from this pause, be very intentional about what you choose to add back in and what you choose to keep, because it's going to matter. The third thing is to talk to somebody. And I know, again, in the season of social distancing, we are limited in the number of people we're probably communicating with and interacting with on a daily basis. But make sure that you're reaching out and that you are connecting with people. And in some cases, this is going to require professional help, and there is nothing wrong with that. Connect with a counselor. It's something that I did in my past at a time when I knew I needed the support. So make sure that you know when you need that extra voice and that extra support to encourage you. There are so many resources available that are very low cost, that are being rolled out daily because of where we are, because companies know we need to be attending to this piece of our lives. And finally, breathe. When we're stressed, the first thing we do is hold our breath. And you might not even know you've done it until you exhale. But our breath calms down our sympathetic nervous system, which tells us you're being chased by a bear. It's the fight or flight system that our bodies are automatically wired to respond to get us out of threat. And while you might not be feel like you're being chased by a bear, the stress that's caused by chronic anxiety and worry over money, over job loss, over health, over all of the things we faced this year, make us feel like we're being chased by a bear. So our body is responding in this high level of stress, and breathing helps us, our parasympathetic nervous system take over, which helps calm us. It helps us recenter ourselves. So these long inhales in through our nose and out through our mouth is one way that you can very quickly help yourself return to a more calm state when you feel yourself in a higher stress state. Your spiritual well-being provides your meaning and your purpose for life. And so it's really important to know your pathway. If you've grown up in a church, you probably have heard the best ways to connect to God are through praying, through reading our Bible, and maybe through journaling. But Gary Thomas in his book, Sacred Pathways, actually talks about 9 different ways that we uniquely connect to God. And they are apart from those things we just talked about. Some of us connect to nature. We love to be outside, and that's where we feel God, we experience him, we know him in a deep way. Others, it's through worship. It's through being in that corporate setting where we're able to raise our hands and soak in that experience. For some, it's deep study. It's very intellectual. And there are 9 of those pathways. So knowing which one you have and how you uniquely connect to God will help you return to that place of meaning and purpose in your life. Prayer and meditation. I use the word meditation, and for Christians, this can feel weird sometimes. The way I differentiate the two is that meditation in the Eastern religion perspective means emptying yourself out. And Christian meditation is about filling yourself up. It's about listening to God. It's about reading God's word. It's about filling yourself up with truth. And prayer is this place of listening as well as talking to God. So combining those two things is critically important. This third thing is fascinating. So Gallup has done, they've doubled their efforts on research this year, understandably so. And this study came out just in the last 2 weeks that they reevaluated, and they just polled a bunch of people about their emotional and their mental health, their mental well-being. And what they found is the only population of people whose mental well-being and emotional well-being improved this year were people who went to church weekly. So every single week, it went up by 4%. When that number dropped to almost weekly or monthly, that number actually dropped to -12. In other words, it was 12% lower than it was at the same time last year, which was only 1% better than people who never went to church. So it's either 4% better for those who weekly worshiped, 12% worse for those who went bi-weekly or monthly, and then 13% for people who didn't go at all. So that was such a startling reminder of how important it is to be connected to through worship, whether it's online or whether it's in person. And finally, be thankful. Be thankful. And I know this can feel like a really hard one this year because we're so focused on all of the things that have gone wrong. But in the midst of that, there are moments of gratitude. There are things that we can remember that were meaningful and purposeful during this season. Time with family, this opportunity to reevaluate your job. Shifting your perspective and looking for those things to be grateful for has a significant impact on your spiritual well-being and your emotional well-being as well. So those 3 areas, are really those were all tangible ways that you can give attention to your well-being while also giving attention to your career well-being. But there are some keys here to sustaining that well-being, because remember, we have this fresh start effect, and then we've got this thing that we kind of trickle off. So there are 4 ways here that you can improve your odds. And one is to create systems, not goals. I may have said the word goals from time to time throughout this webinar, but I'm actually not a huge fan of goals, because to me, goals are binary. You win or lose, you succeed or fail. And even if you come super close, like that close to your goal, it's going to feel like a failure if you didn't cross that line. So creating systems means it's creating this kind of a routine throughout your day that says, after I do this, I will do this. Then I will do this, and then I will do this. So it's stacking those habits that actually help those new changes stick. James Clear, who's another author, wrote a book called Atomic Habits, talks about, he says this, and I'm going to read it. We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. So goals don't motivate us, but if we don't have the right system in place, we will fall to the level of that system. We will not succeed because we don't have a system in place. And if you've been around me for any length of time, or you learn more about me later, you're going to hear me say these words over and over again: practice, 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 practice. If you think about people in your life who are really successful, professional athletes, people you admire, people in any sphere of business or the spiritual, in the religious community, what you're going to see is they did something over and over again. Yes, they had a natural talent to do that thing, but they had to repeat it. And when they failed, they tried again. They didn't stop practicing because they failed once. They got up and they did it over and over again. So you have to be willing to put in that time to iterate, to change what's not working, and to try again. The third thing is an interesting mindset shift. So this is to expect imperfection. Now, I call myself a recovering perfectionist. So I'm mindful of the fact that I do have high levels of expectation for myself. But when it comes to making changes in our behavior, do you remember how hard it is because of the way our mind is wired? So we know it's an uphill battle, and we don't move from point A to point Z in a straight line. It's you may have seen that little graphic at some point where it's this squiggly path. It's 2 steps forward and 4 steps back and 5 steps forward and 2 steps back. And it's just this constant process of learning. And the more you expect that, the more you'll be prepared to just look at it as another learning opportunity so that you can take the next step forward. But if you expect that things are going to go smoothly and that things are going to be perfect, you are far more likely to throw in the towel and to stop trying. And finally, remember to hack your environment. Remember that habits are just responses to the things that are happening around you. So if you're not, the best thing you can do is to look around you, look at whether your setting, the people who surround you, of all of these things are supporting where you're trying to go, and make those little adjustments in ways that are going to cue you, that are going to trigger that new behavior or that new practice that you're trying to put into place. So here we go, putting it all together. So your next step is to choose one small new habit for the new year. This could be around your career well-being. This could be around your physical, your emotional, or your spiritual well-being. Pick one ridiculously small new habit that you're going to start for the new year. The research tells us that when we do one thing at a time, we are 98% successful at accomplishing that thing we set out to. When we add 2 new changes, we drop to below 30%. And with 3, we're less than 10% likely to succeed. So pick one thing, and it has to be something you want to do. It can't be a should. This is a really important point. Do something you want to do. Don't lose weight because the doctor told you you should. Now, it might be important that you lose weight, but you need to want to do it in order for you to fully put yourself into that place. The way to decide if it's something you want to do or not, or if you have the confidence to do it, is to give yourself to think about a scale from 1 to 10. If you think about the next week, the next 7 days, how likely are you to do that behavior for the next 7 days without fail, without skipping it? If you don't give yourself an 8 or higher, because the 10 is I will do it every day, no doubt, If you don't give yourself an 8 or higher, make your behavior smaller. Make it easier, because the more you can get to that level of confidence that you can do that thing consistently and practice it daily, the more likely you are to succeed. The second step in that is to set that start date. Now, we talked about the new year, and that might be the right date for you, but you might also decide that you're going to start this coming Monday, or maybe you have a birthday coming up that comes before the new year. Pick a date, tell somebody you're going to start, and go ahead and start practicing. You could start practicing now. You don't have to wait until then if you are ready to go now. Remember to ride that wave. Listen to where you are and follow that motivation to get started on that new healthy habit. And here's my final word of encouragement to you. When you drift, use the fresh start effect, right? Set a new date, reestablish those systems, and go back to thinking about East. Make it easy, make it attention grabbing, make it social, and make it timely. Those are your four reminders. But the bottom line is, this has been a hard year, and I want to encourage you to endure. And I want to remind you that you already did. You made it to today. You showed up here today, and you have shown endurance just simply by doing that. And when you feel powerless, when you feel weak and weary, I think is the word for this year, invite God into your journey. It's not through your power, it's through his. And when you access that, you have the ability to do far more than you ever imagined, and you have far more strength than you ever thought possible. Here is my hope for you, for the weary. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. Right? His grace is sufficient. It's his power that through those times when we feel weak, when we have that intention action gap, when we get frustrated with ourselves because we just can't seem to do the thing we want to do, his power enables us to do this all the more successfully by inviting him in and having him be our companion on this journey. And above all, rejoice always. Pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. And that's a tough one. And I get that. But this is God's will for your life. You may think, and you may be wondering, what is God's will for my life right now? Because you don't know your next step, and you're confused about what's coming and what the purpose of all of this has been, and maybe feel guilty even about not doing the thing that he's called you to do. But here is his will for you: to rejoice always, pray continually, and give thanks. This is what God has asked you to do. And this is the thing that you can do today, no matter where you are in your career transition. Before I go, I just wanted to share, this is a great time to take a screenshot. These are some of the resources that I talked to you about today. So you can find all of these books on Amazon. You can find my book, by the way. I didn't even put that on here. I didn't think about it. I think it's out of stock on Amazon right now, but you can find it on directly through my website. And these are the different ways that you can connect with me. Here's where to find me on LinkedIn. My website is really simple if you remember how to spell my last name, which is not always easy. So it's just HeidiZwart.com. And again, my email address is HeidiZwart@gmail.com. If you have any questions, I'm happy to connect with you. Happy to help you on your next step, answer any questions that came up today. But once again, thank you so much to Crossroads and to Harry for having me here today. And here's to a happy and healthy new year. It's got to be better than the one we just left.
Heidi, that was terrific. Thanks so much. There is a question that came up here that
Sure.
Actually there were other questions about the books you referenced, and you put the slide up, so that answered those.
Perfect.
But someone asked, what was the resource for the statistics on worship that 4% had better health?
Yeah, it's Gallup. So if you go to gallup.com, I saw the slide in a couple of different places. LinkedIn, I saw it directly posted by the Gallup organization. So if you follow Gallup, you'll see it there. But you may have to go to gallup.com and Google the emotional and mental health survey.
Terrific. Actually, one person asked, can you put your contact information page up one more time?
Oh yeah, let's see if I can share my screen. Here we go.
So while you're doing that,
Yeah.
one of the takeaways I got
Yeah.
from what you in your presentation was that this is a bad time to diet, and I really resonated with that. So
Mhm.
with Christmas cookies coming up, that sounded really good to me. Your advice
Right?
there, so I think I'm going to take that.
Absolutely. Please, you can share that with everybody you know. Don't diet. Enjoy
Yeah,
everything in moderation. You know, that's really my my message when it comes to food is enjoy bites and tastes of the season, because it's part of the joy that we get out of this time of year.
absolutely. Terrific. Well, thanks so much, Heidi. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it. I took actually several notes. I think there was
great.
some great advice in there, and what a great opportunity. I think after 2020, everybody's ready for a fresh start, right? And so this is a great time to really think through how can you do that more
Yep.
effectively, and he gave some great advice. As with that, want to just wrap up here briefly. Grateful that you're all here. Be sure to look at our website for information about the webinars that are coming up in January. This is the last webinar for this year. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and enjoy the time. And, you know, I was just having a conversation the other day with someone that was really kind of hitting a rut and feeling kind of discouraged in their job search right now. And that's understandable. And they've been at it every day. But you know what happens for so many people is that because they're discouraged, they're not putting in all the effort that they could be, and they feel guilty about that all the time. And then it makes it even worse to try to get back to doing the things that they ought to do. And so, you know, we really talked about give yourself a legitimate break, you know, focus on maybe working at your job search 3 days a week, but really focus to do all you can during those 3 days, maybe Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then take Tuesdays and Thursdays as a legitimate time off and do the other things you want to do, whether it's around the house or something you enjoy, and not feel guilty about it, that you're deliberate about it. I think when we procrastinate and do other things, but not deliberately, then we feel guilty that we're not doing the job search stuff. So do what works for you. But I think taking a break here between Christmas and New Year is a great way to kind of regenerate yourself and get back into the right frame of mind. Our first webinar for this next January is on January 7th, Thursday morning. And I'm really glad to have Mark Kislos back. He has spoken before. He's got a book called Frame Breaking, but his title of this presentation is Leveraging Work Experiences to Achieve Career Success. And it's really about looking at the things you've done in your career and how can you best position those and articulate those for the types of jobs you're pursuing, and how do you transfer those skills and help someone see the value of that. And so it's a tremendously helpful presentation. Encourage you to take advantage of that. And we have a really, for the first couple of months, a great string of webinars. I'm got an all-star lineup I'm looking forward to. So take advantage of those, join us for them. As I mentioned, take advantage of the other things we have coming up in Crossroads, our weekly networking group, the classes, the coaching, the prayer support. And I'm hopeful that this spring sometime we'll be able to get back into in-person meetings where we can add back our full day job search workshops and other things we offer as well. For sure, we're doing webinars for January and February. March is still, I'm guessing we're probably still going to do webinars, but hopefully by April or May at the latest, we'll be able to be back in person. So stay tuned. In any case, thanks for being here today. I hope it was helpful, and enjoy the rest of your day. Again, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and look forward to seeing you all in January. Take care.